Hi all. I think I'm the last talk that stands between you and a coffee break, so I'm going to try to be short. Thank you, Ken, for introducing me. I'm one of the fellow Seqerans that's presenting in front of you today, and just as Geraldine, I've been here for about just a bit over a year. Started right before the summit last year. In Seqeran years, it means they're like dog years. It feels like 7. And as Ken mentioned, I'm a VP of engineering, which actually means, according to Google, that my job is building, growing, and driving teams of engineers to build quality software. So while the majority of talks today are about either focusing on science or how the software empowers science, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach, and I'll talk to you about how the sausage is made, or software is made, to be more specific. And I'm hoping that, kind of given the audience today, some of you are scientists, some of you are researchers, but a lot of you probably identify as engineers or as technologists, and so I'm hoping that some of the things I talk about today kind of will resonate with the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, or maybe for those of you who don't, it'll give you kind of a little bit of a glimpse of the things that we do behind the scenes so that you don't have to think or know about them. You'll already seen kind of some of these subway maps. This is a little bit different. It kind of shows the evolution of the science and technology and Seqera along with it. And I wanted to use it to illustrate really the uniqueness of the problem that we deal with as a software organization at Seqera. As engineers, we kind of think in orders of complexity. And so as you kind of start adding different variables to the process, like the complexity quickly grows. And so we're looking kind of along in each individual line, there's all these different variables that we have to worry about. So kind of the ways that users interact with our software. You might be running Nextflow at command line. You might be interacting with our SaaS solution. You might be running your jobs in AWS or in GCP. You might be running a simpler pipeline like FastQC, or you might be running a much more complex SARIC one. And in addition to everything, we as engineers don't probably see much of a difference between the two. And so kind of we're taking on all of this complexity because it's our job. And the way that we like to think about it is we work hard so that you don't have to. Today you'll see a few shiny demos by Evan, Paulo, Sasha, Ben, kind of showing the things that we develop. But what I want to talk about is the things that are a bit harder to show. The things that, as a matter of fact, it's a good thing. That means that we're doing our job right if you don't see them. Because if we're doing our job well, outside of the times like today when we roll out something brand new, most of you shouldn't really see anything. If we add 10 or 100 or 1,000 users to the platform, you shouldn't see any performance impact. If we update our authentication mechanism, or if we upgrade some sort of underlying framework to a newer, better one, you shouldn't really see the difference. If we patch an external vulnerability, if we catch a memory leak or detect a DDoS attack, et cetera, you kind of get the point. And most of our operations kind of shouldn't cause a ripple in your day-to-day. But that doesn't mean that you should know about the things that we do below the water. So kind of you think about your user experience as the things that are kind of showing up on the top of the iceberg, but everything else that is below the water kind of comprises your user experience as well. And this year has been a pretty big year for us in investing into things below the water, and that's why I kind of wanted to come up here and talk about it. But before I do, I want to take a step back. Evan showed a timeline yesterday of evolution kind of from the first Nextflow GitHub check-in to how it appears today. And I wanted to talk about sort of from the underlying team mechanism and everything else perspective. But given the current climate, I kind of don't want to use the iceberg analogy. Iceberg melting away. And I'll stick with the something that's growing. So kind of think about the growth of a tree, and you can think about Seqera growing from that initial check-in that Paulo did over 10 years ago supporting that initial growth. And then as the tree has started growing leaves and branches and predictably producing leaves and withstanding storms, the root system started growing along with it. And as the number of users grows, so does the support and the maintenance burden, and the complexity of the team, technologies, and processes that hold it up. Additionally, the things that worked a year ago with a team of 1, 3, 10 will not work today or tomorrow with a team of 20, and definitely not 30, or over 100. So the things that we invested into this year are really not anything new that we haven't been doing over the past few years, but we're basically, as kind of the evolution goes, we need to update and change both of our technology as well as our processes. And to me, it's kind of about some of the three main pillars when we think about technology. First of all, it's people. Secondly, once we talk about people, there are processes that kind of support those people. And finally, in order for us to scale the processes, that's sort of the underlying technology that helps us. I'm going to throw a bunch of themes out there, so bear with me. The first group that I'll talk about is security. Security is one of the big themes for us this year. We grew our security team. We built out a training program. We have remapped some of our security processes like incident management, automated some of the other processes like vulnerability management, and focused our time and effort into compliance. Compliance and security seem to be a big thing starting to come through the talks today as well, and I'm really glad to see it, so kind of verifies our investment a little bit. The other thing that's big on my mind is observability. Observability is basically our ability to stay on top of knowing that you as users don't experience those ripples along the way. Some of it, like telemetry, is capturing information about what the users are doing specifically so we can stay ahead of the future needs. Others, like testing, monitoring, alerting, are ensuring that we don't find out the problems from you slacking us or using Freshdesk or whatever else, but we find out about problems well before user runs a pipeline or opens up a data studio. Knowing what our users are doing in the Seqera cloud, so if you're using our SaaS product, is reasonably easy. But a lot of our users are using an on-premises system, which makes it significantly more difficult for us to both troubleshoot as well as to monitor what they're doing. So the way that we're thinking about setting up our monitoring systems is not just in order to enable ourselves to monitor our users, but in order to enable our users to support themselves to some degree as well. We invested a lot this year into people, and there's a lot of things that you need to do in a growing organization like ours. First, you need to hire a lot of folks. I have a little hiring sticker here, just letting everyone know. Find me afterwards if you might know of anyone who might be useful for our team. I think Evan mentioned earlier as well that we've doubled our Nextflow team. We've grown our product teams across most of our engineering as well. And with a growing team, we need to invest a lot into things like internal documentation, engineering enablement, cross-functional communication. It's not enough to make it easier for our individual engineers to do the work. We also need to make sure that they're able to talk to the scientific development team when they need to do some specific load testing, or that they're able to talk to our customer support team to actually understand what our customers are running into problems with. But I do want to bring it back a little bit to specific examples and, most importantly, people. I don't know if Andrew is out there. I can't actually see anyone, so I'm keep staring at my computer. But Andrew today, for example, is on our new revamped support process. We now have, together with our customer success team, we've revamped an engineering support process. And so while we are all talking today, Andrew is probably looking at a Grafana dashboard, making sure for the users who couldn't make it to the Nextflow Summit today can actually still run their pipelines and nothing fails on them. I briefly mentioned compliance earlier, but it needs its own story. Like, this is a huge deal. Anyone who's ever dealt with compliance before, there's a lot of things kind of like, there's a whole iceberg on its own that you need to worry about. And so for those of you who ever had to deal with it, you know the amount of work that goes into it. We've had Jordi, our head of IT and compliance, kind of steer us through the whole process. And Arno, our security engineer, has not only ensured that we check kind of all of those compliance boxes, but also that enables us to really create a sustainable security posture, not for today, but kind of going into that future of the tree that supports all of the different use cases. And there's so many sort of different things to mention when we talk about all these other things like testing, monitoring, observability, et cetera. Our infrastructure team has been working kind of on a standardized monitoring cluster across the individual products. Dominic, one of our engineers, has been actually helping the product teams absorb sort of a lot of that monitoring work and know how to appropriately release the applications independently and know kind of that they don't have any impact on customers at the end of the day. Alvar has not only been revamping our end-to-end testing, but also ensuring that engineers across the whole stack are able to contribute to the testing framework. Unfortunately, I have 13 minutes and I'm almost out entirely of that time, so I can't highlight every single thing that every engineer has been doing. But I did want to show kind of how many of us are supporting all of this sort of below the water. This is not your only opportunity to learn about them. There's a table upstairs that says Ask a Human on it. It's manned by quite a few engineers, but also by product. I think Matteo and Andrea and Lilia and Rob are sitting up there today. So on the coffee break, come up and talk to the engineers. Tell them about your problems, but don't tell them just about the problems you're facing with our software. Tell them about the problems that you're solving, kind of the way that you're talking about it today. Because what we want to do is we want to build a better experience for you, and for that we need to understand what your problems are. Thank you.